Is Luis Navarro, who is the campaign manager for Senator Joe Biden. Luis, thanks for coming by tonight. Little headline attached to your candidate this Navarro, who is the campaign manager for Senator Joe Biden. Luis, thanks for coming by tonight. Little headline attached to your candidate this evening, an Iraq resolution that cleared the Senate today. Tell us about it.
Yes, this marks the first clear repudiation of the Bush administration's policies in Iraq. This is the first time in which a supermajority of senators, a bipartisan majority of senators, have voted for a clear alternative to the president's policies heretofore.
And that alternative has been called soft partition. Explain.
Well, actually, it is a federalist system in which each of the communities, Shia, Sunni, and Kurd, would have their own autonomous states and allow the central government to focus more on, currency, producing currency and protecting the borders.
Does this mandate that this happen, or is this a sense of the Senate resolution?
What this is it changes the goal, which, the premise under this administration has been that we would have troops there so long as the central government, in order to protect and provide for the central government of Iraq. That was their definition of democracy. By presenting a different alternative in which the autonomous regions are able to take control of their own affairs, we take our troops out of the crosshairs of a civil war. And that makes it possible for them to not only withdraw, but withdraw responsibly so that we do not see a greater conflagration that we would just have to go back into within the next 5 years.
All right, but to be clear, it does not compel a change in policy, does it?
Well, what it does is that it puts the president on record of having to decide. There's now a clear alternative. The president now must choose between retaining the policy that he has supported and worked on for the last 4 or 5 years versus an alternative which has been embraced by 75 U.S. senators that says, no, Mr. President, we must have a different course in terms of the objectives of this nation in order to withdraw our troops and end this war.
So a headline for Joe Biden going into the debate tonight. I'm sure we'll hear him talk about this when the opportunity presents itself. And a headline might be useful to Joe Biden that the CNN WMUR poll puts him at 3% among likely New Hampshire voters. I know what you're going to say. It's a snapshot. It's a moment in time. Well, we've got a series of snapshots.
Well, actually, what I would also point out, in the same poll, it says that only 17% of voters are firmly committed to a candidate. I think the point that we would make is that, we have seen this before. I don't think New Hampshire voters are at all unfamiliar with the notion of, candidates with lots of money and lots of name recognition being declared the anointed winners.
Joe Biden doesn't have name recognition after all these years in the Senate?
Well, obviously the Senate is a different forum than having been the First Lady of the United States or having been a vice presidential nominee of his party, neither of which he's ever been. So I think, yes, there is a qualitative difference between being a member of the U.S. Senate and being someone who has been on a national stage. But I think what's important and what voters will make a decision on is not about celebrity. It won't be about the sizzle. It'll be about the stake. And the stake in this race is this. There's one candidate who has demonstrated an ability to resolve the most pressing issue facing this country today, and in a way in which we have bipartisan support and is a lesson in both leadership and judgment that can be applied to all the other problems facing this country.
Following an initial yes vote on the Iraq resolution in 2002.
Absolutely.
When you look at history in our country, only 2 people have been elected president directly from the United States Senate: Warren G. Harding, John F. Kennedy. Why do you think Joe Biden can be the third?
Well, I think, for a couple of reasons. I think in the case of John Kennedy, for example, aside from the faith that they share, the fact is that, in a post 9/11 world, much as we saw when John Kennedy was elected during the Cold War, Americans understand what the stakes are on the international stage, that there are enemies and threats to this nation, but that our resolve in facing them does not have to be a function of a fallacy such as that which this administration has pursued for the last 4.5 years. It is necessary and essential that the next president of the United States have the experience and judgment to deal with the threats that face this country. But it is even more important that this president, and we believe Joe Biden is that candidate, can bring this country together to bring about real change. and that this vote in the Senate today clearly reflects that.
Less than an hour to the debate. We'll see how it goes, and you'll be over at Spin Alley later on?
Absolutely.
We'll look for you there.
Thanks so
Navarro
much.
from the Biden campaign.
Really
Thanks for
appreciate
coming by.